morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to do a reading with the tarot and guidance into the collective energies this week. For the first time, without sounding conceited, this morning I feel quite uncomfortable being in front of the camera, quite uncomfortable having the screen upon me, having the spotlight upon me, and that feels very relevant for the energies this week. We are being guided and asked to look at ourselves. Now, the reason I'm feeling uncomfortable is because what I can see in front of me doesn't automatically tally up, and that's not through notions of grandeur or believing I look a different way. It's more through the fact that the camera is a mirror version and I'm not sure how to change the setup. Again, feels very poignant. This week in particular, anything that may be coming up for us is an ultimate opportunity to see what is being mirrored within us. So I'm going to start this video off with the guidance this morning. Every morning I tune in for daily guidance in regards to how to best navigate the energies of the day individually and collectively. Every time I do this, which can be found on Facebook, on my page, on Instagram, wherever it is you want to find it, even on TikTok at the moment. But every time I do this, I always share a little story, a little insight into how I came to the guidance. This feels the area to look at this week, why we share the story, what story it is we are sharing, and how that actually interprets the guidance that is received. Ultimately, I try to step out of the way. Ultimately, I try to observe what is going on from a higher perspective. But I also recognise that my journey, my experiences helped me gain that perspective. So there's a real emphasis on keeping that balance without imposing our stories and our experiences or journeys. This morning, the reason I share a little mini story is to see how the guidance tallies in, to highlight the awareness of what is going on around, and I guess to confirm whatever is being said in the cards. And it's the same with these videos. I always have a talk about the energies that are coming up, and then I do the cards, and 9 times out of 10 the cards will reflect back exactly what has been said. And that's the beauty of the tarot. They are a mirror. We may not always like what we see in them, but it is about recognizing that what is going on is being reflected to us from a non-judgmental perspective. That feels very clear. Thank you. Very clear this week. To keep it clear, to recognise what is going on around us is showing ultimately what is going on within us, to observe these potential triggers for what they are. So this morning's guidance, what really came up for me was, despite the healing that I did, despite the prayers, despite the intentions, I didn't really feel like I'd embodied my spirituality until I'd done physical movement, until I'd performed yoga, my version of yoga, and embodied what was coming through. Now that brought up a whole narrative of spiritual bypassing, of my own journey to my own spirituality, which is relevant for me because I'm writing a course on it. No, I'm not. I'm actually writing a talk on it, but that's very interesting, isn't it? I'm writing about it, put it that way. And what came up for me was the energy this year in particular, even though we may have believed last year being the Hierophant was very much to do with spirituality. The guidance I've been receiving for the last 6 months, if not longer, is that this year in the vibration of 6, the Lovers and the Devil, we are really going to look at the things that hold us back from our connection on the earth, from our beliefs, from the things that drive us, from our core essence, which is our spirituality. You know, I'm doing a lot of revision for the stuff that I'm writing, and when you type in the word spirituality, we come up with very shallow interpretations based on religion, when spirituality is so much more than that. It is of the spirit, it is of the soul, it is of the whole emphasis of somebody. So really going into that this morning, I shuffled the cards, felt a lot more embodied, could recognize the messages in relation to my own story and the energies that are coming up this year in particular. Because when we seek out spirituality, what we're doing is we're seeking out a deeper meaning to life. And the reasons that we do that vary, but they are normally around needing answers, needing hope, needing to believe in ourselves, needing to reconnect to where we are and our purpose and our health and things like that. And understandably, over the last few years, you can see why there would be more draw to find our own unique spirituality. So tuning into the cards this morning, I'd actually shuffled from behind the Page of Cups. Now, the Page of Cups in the deck that I use, which is the deck I'm going to use today from the Light Seers Tarot, shows a person half in this world, half out of this world, head in the clouds. No, actually feet were in the clouds. Pigs were flying around, and there was a real emphasis in the card about grounding and embodying, applying our spirituality to life. And I thought, I've got this. I know where this guidance is going. Rule number 1. It's one thing to have our own story, but if we stick just with our story, then we kind of limit the other information that can come in. We limit the reflections around us and the potential lessons. Even if it's uncomfortable, there's always potential to grow. If we can just stand back with compassion for ourselves and what is being shown to us, we can open up to a far bigger vision. So I did that this morning on the back of the hands. I did that this morning, and I tuned into the card in my hands without looking at it, which is something that I picked up from a very valuable teacher along the years, Tiffany Crosby. And it just gives you another perspective. Rather than what you see, you go into what you feel. Now, rather than tune into the card, what I do is tune into my body. And I'm a very big advocate of intuition being based on what we are feeling, all of our senses. So the next few weeks, there's going to be an awful lot coming up about the sixth sense. There's going to be an awful lot coming up about really embodying our senses. And it's something we would call the shamanic perspective. So rather than taking, for argument's sake, a leaf, rather than finding a leaf off of a tree and just looking at it or even not noticing it, we would pick up that leaf, we would feel that leaf, we would smell that leaf. If it isn't poisonous, we would taste that leaf, we would feel the story of that leaf, we would become one with that leaf. And we gain a bigger sense of that leaf. The roots from the tree that it came, the squirrel that possibly carried the nut that dropped it, and you gain that bigger story, that bigger awareness of this leaf. You can also gain insights into how easy a leaf lets go. It's what we call medicine. There's great medicine to be found by invoking our senses. And the sixth sense for me has always been a deeper sense of inner tuition, a deeper sense of lessons that doesn't come from a separate sense, but a heightened awareness of all of our senses. Really smelling, really seeing, really listening, without that jumping in. So going back to that, there's going to be quite a bit of that that's coming up this week. Let me just drink my tea. And this is what I do when I do the daily guidance. I feel into my body, I feel into the senses. What am I hearing? What am I sounding? What am I sounding? What am I hearing? What's the sound? Interesting, what am I sounding? When we go into our emotions, when we go into what we're actually feeling, which isn't always pleasant, but it isn't pleasant because of the judgments we have on it. So if we can go into our feelings without those judgments by observing, listening, feeling, sensing, really embodying our body, we get an emphasis of the true spirituality of who we are, not outside of us. I do use tarot cards, I do connect to guides, but I do it through being inside. And that's spirituality for me personally, is to go within, to find the answers. Everything else reflects this. So this morning I did that with the tarot card, and I could really feel a temptation. I could really feel excitement. I saw a door opening. I could really feel an opportunity. It felt like the Lover's card. which is the energy of this year, something felt off for me. Something felt off. So I asked the card for a message. And as I did so, this energy became so high, so outside of me, because I'd asked the card for a message, so outside of me that I actually really needed to ground. And when I ground, I saw myself falling down a hole, a spiritual hole. And the message that I received from being in my body was, don't forget to come up. Now, why am I sharing this? So you have the whole story of me tuning in. You have the whole story of embodiment. You have the whole senses of the experience. You have the cards. You have the guidance. You have the spiritual connection. You have the history. You have what's being reflected back. And for me this morning, what was being reflected back was, although I had been on this journey, not to forget to come back up, not to forget to still have that hope. Underneath it, the card was the Ace of Swords. Underneath it was the Lovers. Ultimately, the message behind it was to decide whether we see something as a pipe dream or whether we can actually embody it and make it real. And that's the energy for this week. There's going to be a lot of shifts. There's going to be a lot of unexpected changes. And it can be a real knee-jerk reaction to think, yeah, I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't believe that. And some of the things, will be unbelievable for a reason. And we need to trust that within us. But this week in particular, really going into whether or not our story is affecting our ability to believe these higher vibrations. Whether or not something can be so beautiful and so high and so pure and so magical that in our essence to ground it and embody it, we actually bring our old stories to the point where we cannot lift it back up to the vibration that it was in. So, to avoid talking gobbledygook 12 minutes in, what I'm suggesting, what I'm trying to clarify rather, that feels important this week, rather than suggesting to people or ourselves what needs to be done. Let's clarify here. What I'm trying to clarify is when something comes along that could potentially be light, that could potentially be divine, avoid the knee-jerk reaction of dampening it before it's had a chance to show you what it is. A little bit of balance required this week in particular, and that's the beauty of embracing all of our senses. That's the beauty of seeing the bigger picture. So as I say every day with the daily guidance, there is a story. It's a medicine wheel basically. There is a story, there is a healing from it, there is guidance from it, and then there is the bringing it back to the now. So with that in mind, story, guidance, healing, let's bring it back to the now and look at the tarot cards. And the cards, as I mentioned, that I'm going to use are the Light Seers Tarot. And it is remembering that cycle with things around us, okay? So on the medicine wheel, things that are unknown, coming to light, giving us the clarity that we sought. May not be things that we like the look of, may not be things that we're ready to be open to. So what needs healing there? If anything, this is your journey. If something resonates with you, go for it. If it doesn't, you're not ready. There's no judgment there. It either isn't for you or not for you yet. And that's okay. Show yourself compassion with this. Carrying on from the healing, what do I need to let go of? What can I bring back now? Okay, so yeah, I will mention that. So yesterday, I personally found the energy quite flat and uncomfortable. And I knew that the only way, as my mother would say, the only way through it is to go through it, basically, to sit and feel what is going on. So I did. I put some time by and I did just that. And I didn't want to be in that space. I wanted to be positive. I wanted to be light. I wanted to shift this. For me personally, there needs to be acknowledgement of where we are in order to do that, so that we have that deeper shift, so that we have that more sensational shift. You know, it's one thing to shift our mind, it's one thing to shift our body, it's one thing to shift our emotions, but if we can do that all together by feeling where we're at, much more monumental change and an easier change, because I'm seeing the analogy of all fires are on board, almost like the film Titanic, where all the engines are actually running. All engines are on board then, all the energies are behind you, all the senses are behind you. And that's what takes something as a separate sense and brings it together as part of a deeper intuition, a deeper shamanic sight here, a deeper healing here. So I'll share an analogy with you. My Hoover blew up yesterday. When I wasn't feeling all that great or whatever, my Hoover blew up. I was trying to clean the house and it first world problems, understandably, but at that moment in time, relevant for me, and that feels very important this week. In the big scheme of things, what you're experiencing may not feel that humongous, and you may have people say, well, I've got this, this and this, or this is going on here, and da-da-da, come on, raise your vibration. And I do agree with that, but we need to feel what's going on. You know, it's okay to feel what's going on. Yesterday was uncomfortable for me, but today it's brought so much clarity. So my Hoover exploded. The wire has been dodgy for a very long time, and I've been yanking my Hoover along, treating it like dirt basically, while it's doing all this clearing. And I can see the analogy of my own body, you know, push, 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 doing all this clearing, treating it not great, dragging it around, and it's just had enough and it's blown up. So I actually have a new Hoover coming with a new wire, a new connection to avoid that burnout, which, you know, coincidence, message, however you want to see it. I personally see things through many, many angles. So for me, that is a very relevant message right now. The other thing that came up for me the other day was this knee-jerk reaction to get everything done in January, this new year, new you, just for me personally, madness. You know, January, from the moment the clock strikes midnight, all of a sudden everything has to be done now. I go with the seasons, I go with my environment, and the seasons don't change until February. Spring isn't here until February, March time, and for a long time now, about 8 months, the guidance has really been that it isn't until March that we're going to really see those significant changes, end of February, beginning of March. And to have time and pause and reflect now to really look at how we can almost compromise, how we can balance these energies. When we have a wonderful idea come in, oh, I must lose weight, I must get healthy, I must, for me, give up smoking. This wonderful, divinely inspired idea, which we know is good for us. If we become too strict with that, if it has to be a certain way, for some people it works, if it has to be a certain way, if we put pressure on it that has come from elsewhere or our previous stories, that idea isn't going to root. It's almost like taking a seed and pulling at it left, right and centre. So for me personally, with the smoking, I am replacing the odd cigarette with an inhalator, and I'm trusting my body to do this. It feels very relevant for the next 6 weeks or so. Feel the pinch, do what you can in that moment, change what you can in that moment, but have that compassion of knowing that true changes are going to take a couple of months to come in. I think that's everything before we do actually shuffle the cards. There's the Ace of Swords that came out this morning. I'm drinking Melissa lemon balm tea, and I'm drinking it, one, because I prefer it, and I'm really starting to go off caffeine, which has been a natural, I only drink tea anyway, but it's been a natural progression in my body, a natural transmutation in my body. It's not something I've had to force, it just wants to do it, and there's something there about trusting the body this week. Lemon balm is known as the elixir of life, so just Google the benefits of lemon balm. I'm not going to spend this time advocating certain drinks and things like that because it's not in my sphere of practice, But just really look into the things that could give you the elixir of life this week in particular, for whatever comes up, and those around you. Yeah, be open to receive the elixir of life. The last few years have been very, very difficult. If something comes along to help you through that, feel into it. And if it isn't your old story stopping it, fine. But if it is, maybe just open to the potential of the elixir of life starting to come in now, for all the hard work that has occurred. Itchy back. Okay. Energies this week, please, with the cards. It feels light. It feels quite joyful if we don't take ourselves too seriously this week. Yes, there could very much be things come up that we may not like to see, but what would happen if we let go of the judgments of what we're seeing? What would happen if we let go of the prejudices behind what we're seeing? The views, the opinions, the assumptions. Oh. The card has just flown out. The King of Cups. Okay, and I'm being noted to see that the King of Cups is right by the Three of Swords here. I'm going to put him back in the pack. If he comes back out, then he has another message. But when we flow with our emotions, yeah, there is pain there sometimes for some of us, but holding in our emotions, suppressing our emotions, whether it's because we're trying to raise our vibration, whether it's because we don't like what we feel, can cause more pain. The medicine is within the senses. The medicine is within the experiential life. So the more we feel into things, the more we're going to discover about ourselves. And you might be surprised. You might be, I hear, pleasantly surprised if we can just get out of our head. This year is going to be a very mental year. But if we can just get out of our heads and watch the emotions, feel the emotions, smell the emotions, live the emotions, hear the emotions for the power that they are. Okay, energies this week. I can hear the phrase from the Skittles, taste the rainbow, be the rainbow, or whatever it is. We are rainbows, we are humans, you know, to experience all these different things. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, wow, Thursday, goodness me, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, gosh, overall we have a, oh my goodness, at the bottom of the pack we have the Magician, and really, really, really here being massively divinely guided this week. Massively divinely guided to look at what we're channeling, how we're channeling. This whole week, okay, what was that? How authentically we're channeling as well. That caused a bit of a, oh, am I doing okay? In my own energy there, you know, how authentically we are channeling what is coming through. But recognizing that our experience is also part of the lesson and part of the channeling, but not letting it confuse the situation. Not letting it confuse the situation. So this week, gosh, this week is all major arcana apart from 2. Divinely guided this week. You know, very, very much so. The difference between the major arcanas is fate, if you will, destiny, if you will, or bigger forces, spirituality, if you will. And the minor arcanas are our role within it. So I just want to look at our role within this week. And we do have the Page of Cups, which came up this morning, and the Two of Pentacles. So I want to show you this Page of Cups, okay? I don't know if you can see, but in the corner here is a little pig surrounded by money, you know, and I hear that connotation, pigs will fly, you know, something that we don't believe in particular. And you can see that that lack of belief is almost leaving our feet in the clouds and leaving us disembodied, disassociated with our physical place here. We then have the Two of Pentacles, and it's that balance. Okay, it's taking whatever you are given this week in particular, grounding it into your body by applying it to life. Always, always, always spirituality, applying it to life in our actions, in our words, in our physical body. So this week overall we have the star, which if you consider we have the magician underneath the pack and then the star for the overall theme of this week, it really feels like a week of soul manifestation. That can be, what can that be? See, blank. That feels quite let go of what we believe soul manifestation to be. Let go of what we believe manifestation to be to an extent as well. I think over the last few years we've really had our own opinions about what the bigger vision is and the highest good, and you know, that's wonderful. It's beautiful to have that awareness, but at times even that awareness can go beyond our awareness. But if we hold on to our views, we stop new ones coming in. If we believe that things have to be a certain way, we stop the potential. We ultimately lose the higher vision because we've limited it. So I'm seeing that in regards to spirituality this week in particular. If we believe, myself included, spirituality needs to be a certain way based on our own experiences, for me that would be embodiment based on the experiences and the trauma over the last few years that have come from not having that. If I say that that is spirituality, it's not spirituality, because spirituality is so vast that there is no set spirituality. Just like there is no set way to deliver, there is no set way to manifest, there is no set way to be, there is no set way to experience your emotions, or, you know, the set way, your spirituality, your connection here is you. Really feel that. I can really feel that. 2022, the year to be you. Now today, on the Monday, no surprise, we have the World card here. Yeah, the medicine wheel here. All the things that we've discovered, all the things that we've healed, all the things that we've pulled out, replaced, you know, all that kind of stuff to make ourselves a better spiritual person. What are we going to put back in now? What have we discovered? Who are we? You know, some of the research that I'm doing for the upcoming talk on spirituality and mental health is spirituality through the era, and how mental health was originally looked after by religious establishments, and there was a lot of exorcism, pulling out of energies. It then went into the medical profession, and there was a lot of pulling out with lobotomies or shutting down emotions or whatever with medication. Now, I don't have an opinion on either or. What I do notice, what I do recognise is patterns. Both of these have removal, removal, removal. You cannot get rid of energy, which is spirituality for me. You cannot get rid of energy. It merely changes form. Now, when we're removing things, we are saying that isn't good. We are saying we no longer want that, which is great. But what are we putting back in replacement of that? What are we actually becoming? If we're not putting energy back in, we're leaving that open space for repetitive patterns. As I go further into the presentation, I'm noticing that actually, to an extent, this may cause a knee-jerk reaction. It did in me when I realised it upon reflection, that a lot of spirituality will remove as well. Will remove emotions, will remove ego, will remove aspects of being human. You know, there's a fine line. There needs to be balance. A lot of spiritual narcissism will come from being absorbed by the very thing we are trying to remove, which is the spiritual ego. To an extent, this week, Well, always recognize that your identity isn't all of you, but it is part of you. Your experiences aren't all of you, but they are part of you. You know who you are, your journey, your stories, your emotions. Yes, there's more to you, but they are still part of you. Bring those aspects back and recognize your place in the world. Recognize who you are here. On the Tuesday, we have the Chariot. And I want to think, I'm really feeling, what do I feel here on the Tuesday? There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of mental energy coming in, telling me the Chariot means this, 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 this. My emotions are very much black and white, actually, just like the card, black and white here. And what I really, really feel in regards to the Chariot is a deeper knowing that eventually things move forward. And just balancing my mind, balancing my emotions, balancing what is going on around me and how that affects my journey. This man is not trying to control the world. He's not even trying to control the horses. You can't see that very clearly. He's sat on top of the very thing that carries him forward, and he's keeping his balance. Keep your balance on the Tuesday. On the World card, she's balanced as well. So really, really rooting into yourself, what you're feeling, your senses, what is occurring. Be aware of what's being reflected around you, of course, but look at how that affects your position in your ability to move forward, in your ability to connect to the collective, in your ability to know your place here. So very deep insights this week in particular. On the Wednesday, we have the High Priestess. And for the last week or so, there's been some monumental downloads occurring for me in my dream time, to do with the Stellar Gateway, to do with what is trying to come through now. This new, I hear the word evolved energy trying to come through now. And I see that on the Wednesday in the High Priestess. I'm thinking, is there anything to say about the High Priestess? And there's enough stories out there about the High Priestess, about Persephone, about the journey to the underworld and everything else. There's so many out there. Every time I've journeyed with the High Priestess, there are no words, there are no emotions. It just is. That feels very poignant for Wednesday's energy. Probably the whole, no, Wednesday's energy. No assumptions Wednesday. No assumptions, taking things for face value, for what they actually are, our feelings, our intuition, everything. It just is. On the Thursday, we have the Moon card, and I think it was last week, the Moon card. Oh, okay. I was going to say, or I'm going to say, I think it was last week we had the Moon card on the Thursday, and what I was really hearing as I was drinking my tea, my elixir of life, was last week. That was then. This is now. I really feel that. On the Thursday in particular, if we can let go of the illusion that things are always going to be the same, if we can come back up, like today's guidance, don't forget to come back up. If we can come back up from how this journey has been, from our own experiences, from our own stories, from the illusions, from all of it, and see it for what it is in this moment. You know, if we saw something incredibly hopeful that we'd had no experience of, no feelings of, no story of, no ancestral heritage towards, and we just saw it. Yeah, I see the analogy of the Fool. If we saw something in front of us as if it was for the first time, the difference that would have. I'm seeing some great things coming to media, being highlighted in the media at the moment about potentially moving forward, and I'm seeing some very I'm not going to say negative, very confused reactions to it, understandably, because the last few years have been and it's very difficult to get our hopes up. Very difficult, the way things have been. We can go the other way and be no, we can't this week. We can't be too hopeful this week. We can't be too hopeful this week. That would have been my own story, actually, then. But if we can see these things as if they are the first time that they've happened, without everything else, if we can actually open up to what is going on in front of us, rather than compare it to what has been, we can come back up for air on the Thursday. You know, the other thing I noticed with this Page of Cups this morning, which is for the Friday's energy. That's when it starts to really become about our how we deal with this now. Friday's energy. The other thing that I noticed and kind of shrugged away was the fact that my son is a Page of Cups. My son, that they said would never be born, that came down this morning at 20 years old, double my size, double my brawn, threw his arms around me and went to work. I never believed he was possible until I was told he wasn't. Sometimes we go through these experiences to really stretch our ability to believe, to really stretch our ability to hope, to really stretch our ability to hold the light and the gifts and the soul manifestation that's being given to us. Sometimes that takes courage. And we just have to be a bit braver and a bit more hopeful. On the Saturday, that's what we have. The Two of Pentacles bringing down these gifts now into the very things that we carry. And on the Sunday, Temperance. It almost feels like being in the January, even though we're in 2022, it still feels like Temperance has got a few little lessons to guide us through the first part of this year. So Temperance was the energy for last year alongside the Hierophant. But what I'm seeing actually is almost Temperance being the angel on the Lover's card, which is this year, and almost Temperance being the angel on the Judgment card, which is for the next 10 years, you know, number 20. It isn't about the angel. One of them is Gabriel. I can't remember the other one. It isn't about the actual angel, but the energy, that higher energy. Now, whenever I work with the angelic realm, being of scientific mind, wishing to understand energy, my spirituality has always seen the angelic realm as a high blueprint for what things could be. You know, everything has a potential. So thank you. I see the angelic realm as souls, soul potential. Okay, so I believe we all have our own soul potential. On the Sunday, it feels like bringing that, on the Saturday actually, that is the gift that we bring down. Every time we open our hearts to hope, every time we dream, every time we imagine, every time we invoke these senses, we are invoking the sense of the soul. Okay, we are invoking that higher version of ourself into everything that we do, and that feels important to put it into everything that we do. On the Sunday we have Temperance, and as I say, it's not about the actual angel this year, the next 10 years, life in general, really, really, really connecting to not the higher energy, the bigger vision, the shamanic senses, tasting food, smelling things, seeing things, experiencing things, particularly on the Sunday, to balance that light and dark within us. It's okay to feel negative. You know, when did it become not okay to not be okay? If we're not comparing to situations, if we're not trying to raise our vibration, if we're not, it's okay to feel what we feel. But it's okay to be positive too. That balance, artificial darkness, those stories that we hold, those memories that we continue to cling to for a safety mechanism. That's what they are there for. understandably. When we've had the heart broken or the hopes diminished, it is understandable. We're not quite willing to go and believe again. But that's how we learn. Artificial darkness, self-imposed darkness, which I do a lot, hands up, I do a lot, can keep us grounded. But it can also detract any light that's trying to come in. Artificial light, being grateful for things that we're not grateful for, ignoring how we feel when things aren't as happy as we might like. They're disrespectful to the soul. They're disrespectful to you as a person. They're disrespectful to your body. Really recognizing by Sunday, whatever happens this week, you are Temperance. You have the ability to hold space. You are your own midwife. You can get through these changes. But that does mean feeling the pain when the pain is there, because the pain will release the endorphins needed to move forward. It will tell you how to change your position, just like labor. This is a classic labor analogy now. It will help you move your position. It will help you know, connect to your body. It will help you reach out for the help that you need. It's there for a reason. But also knowing that eventually this will change. It can change, and being hopeful and open to that change within us, okay? Allowing that soul potential to come down. Being the magician. We are being gifted some incredible energies this week, some incredible downloads, some incredible maneuvers forward in how we manifest, in how we hold space, in how we connect to our own intuition and our own senses, in how we move forward individually and collectively, and our place here, not only in the world, but the world in this time. That's massive. That's a lot of energy to bring down, but it's nothing that we can't hold space for. It's nothing that we didn't sign up for. Whether it's our jobs, whether it's our relationships, whether it's, ceremony, ritual, whatever it is that's trying to come through, we can do this. Thank you. That was the point of the last few years' lessons. Not to hold on to the negative, not to be blinded by the positive, but to recognize whatever happened, you held space. I'm going to close this on one thing that has been coming up potentially for March onwards. And I'm starting to see it build around me. I'm starting to see people become very defensive over choices that they've made. And when we defend a choice, it's because A, we feel we need to. So we're being attacked, or B, we don't quite believe in what we chose, so we're doubting ourselves. One of the biggest things potentially that could come up in the next few months is a lot of finger pointing, a lot of, wow, we did say, wow, you did this, wow, I knew, but let's stop. Let's stop spiritual bypassing by not stepping into spiritual narcissism. Although you could argue I'm actually becoming a spiritual narcissist by saying what we should do. Let's be aware of it. Okay, let's scrap the stop, because it's not my place to say. I can only do that myself. But let's be aware of what is actually going on. How does it feel to have our beliefs attacked? Not nice. How does it feel to be uncertain in the decisions that we've made? Not nice. Let's help each other by recognizing that actually whatever happened these last few years, we did what we needed to do to move forward. We did what was right for us in that moment. We chose based on where we were. And let's just have some compassion. Let's just have some, not even forgiveness because there's a judgment on that, but let's just let it go already and recognize that the last few years was about recognizing our ability to hold space for ourselves, to believe in ourselves, to know our own truth, to find our own spirituality. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Never done that before, but it's like a real sign off to my soul. I see you, soul. I see you. It hasn't been easy. It hasn't always been fun, but my goodness, I see you and I see the journey. May it be so for you all. May you all have that moment at least once this week where you recognise just how incredible your soul is, has been and always will be, and bring that energy down. Take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.